What's going on, guys? Welcome into the first episode of Fantasy Booking, the show where we break down all things WWE, give a little bit of our predictions of where the future's going, and even book some shows as well. I'm joined by a star-studded lineup. First, a man that can make you look beautiful, even if you are feeling ugly. The legend with the camera, Miles. How you doing, man?
Good to be here, guys. Nice to be here. This is a lovely start to hopefully something special.
Yeah, hopefully so. And then joining me below, a man that's so legendary on the socials, you won't even know it's behind him, but he's hitting millions of views casually. Kalechi, how are you, man?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you, mate. Good to be here. How is everybody?
Bless, man. And again, following in his footsteps as well, you'll see him everywhere across all the FIFA socials. Well, Keanu, how you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's good to be here. Listen, we the ones for life, baby.
For life. There we go. Let's go straight into it then. You set it up perfectly. We're the ones. So we're here. We're on the road to WrestleMania, as everyone's pointed to. And the first thing we've got to talk about is Roman Reigns. This historic title reign, 900 plus days. And I guess I'll go to you then, Keanu, since you set it up. Is this the best title reign of all time in the 2000s? Or can you think of something better?
So I think you say 2000s is so wide to say. I think maybe if you said 2010s, like the 2010 era, I think it's certified.
Bro, some people are saying all time.
But you know what it is? I'm not mad at those people because you see this run has given us everything. And not just in terms of booking and storytelling, but in terms of just opponents. Like I remember I can't remember, I saw like a post a few weeks ago where like it's just the list of everybody that my man has beat. Like thinking that this kind of thing started from like Braun Strowman and then it's like Edge and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. But now it's like he's beaten some of them like 3 or 4 times. And just this recent run right now, everything going on with the bloodline, with Cody and everything before with Sammy, like even the stuff going back to Kevin, like it's giving us everything that we need. So if someone says it's the best, it's up there for me. It's definitely one of like the top runs for this title because there's some people had very pitiful title runs, but this one is moving sensational.
I'm gonna say, Maz, you said best of all time. Potentially, some people are saying, are you in that boat? Say best of all time.
It's hard to think of much better than what we're seeing at the moment. I'm not even going to lie to you. And I'm coming from not being a fan of WWE for my whole wrestling watching time. I started off watching TNA and then I quickly crossed over once that ship sunk and died a death. But since my time of watching WWE, which is, over 10 years now, there's nothing that compares to this. And in that time, there's been lulls, there's been peaks and troughs where whatever champion it was at that time didn't really do it for me. You think of all the previous champions, Brock Lesnar, Kofi Kingston, even Roman Reigns himself at one point, right? Like, there have been some pretty pitiful title runs, in my opinion. I'm a very, very big critic when it comes to my wrestling and the wrestling that I like to watch. But for some reason, the bloodline just keep me coming back week after week. And I think that, yeah, this is looking like the best thing I've watched in a very, very long time.
What about you, Kalechi? I know some people have said you got guys like CM Punk, John Cena's runs, that even going back to when JBL took the title off Eddie Guerrero and how he ran with the belt as well. Is Roman Reigns just head and shoulders above them all, or are you in that boat where there's others that are better?
It's difficult to say because like the JBL era and the Roman Reigns era is too different because the opponents Roman Reigns are facing, some of them, they don't really match up to the level that he's at right now. So I'm going to have to disagree. But this is definitely the best work Roman Reigns has ever done in his career. And he's even got casuals involved, like loving the product now. So I've got to give props to him. But the only thing I'm saying that is wrong with the reign is that he hasn't really beat anybody clean. Like, can you think of anybody he beat clean in his run? Maybe the Edge and Daniel Bryan, but I'm pretty sure he had help in every single match. And that's the only thing that I can't say, oh, he's been a dominant champion, if you know what I mean.
Isn't that what makes it good? Sorry to cut you off.
That's what I was gonna say.
It makes it good. You want to see him. You need more clean wins. to make it legitimate.
I mean, I think, like, yeah, literally, as you said, like, I think that's what makes the bloodline amazing, because I think ultimately when you want a good bad guy, like, especially a good bad guy in a good stable, you want it to be that your stable has an effect on the outcome of the match. So if it's happened, don't get me wrong, if it happens every single time, obviously, like, for some people, I can understand why that might be a bit like samey, like, oh, we've seen this before, like, we know what's going to happen. I understand it, but in terms of just thinking about it in just the wrestling sense of being just generally engaged with everything, it makes you vexed even more. It's like, oh yeah, like, I even thinking about Clash at the Castle. Like, I remember, like, Drew looked like I thought they was gonna put it on Drew. I was
like, nah, I'm going out unhappy. I don't want to do this.
I thought they was putting it on Drew. And then I remember you just see
said,
some brother with a hoodie, and they're like, "Nah." And I'm thinking, but wait, the Usos aren't in the country.
It was going to be Solo.
No idea.
I had no idea.
Yeah,
no
that's
idea.
what made it amazing, I reckon, because I don't think many people have been watching NXT to the point where they thought, "Oh, he's going to come onto the main roster just like that." So,
and then, especially considering he had only been in NXT for like a couple of months.
Yeah, exactly.
Or no longer than a year. So they was like, oh no, we're pulling the trigger like right now. And then when he took the hood off and I had to look at the screen, I'm thinking, oh my days, they're really doing this. And I was not mad at it at all. Like, there were bare people around me. They were like, what's going on? Why are they doing this? I'm thinking, this is sensational television right here. This is sensational. So, like, I think from that point it got even better, because it was like, oh, the Usos are always the ones that are getting involved. But then you bring someone like someone like Solo in, it's like, oh, this is fantastic. And then it even, like, looking at wrestling Twitter, like, you start to see the other, like, Samoan wrestlers that are in different companies, like, acknowledging what's going on, and you're thinking, are these men coming? Are people pulling up? Like, I think stuff like that just adds to a bit more of the mystique of the story. So I have to disagree with you on that one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fair. Nah, it's a good point. It's a good point.
Is when Triple H had Evolution, when he had the belt, you had everybody vying to make sure he's there. You had Batista's the bodyguard, Randy Orton's that upshot kid that's going to come in, Ric Flair's the dirtiest man in the game type of thing. But you always knew at the end of it, Triple H was always going to be the guy, but he always had the type of backup with it. But also, what happened with Evolution was you got stars. Has the bloodline, has Roman Reigns helped build stars when it comes to Sami Zayn, the Usos, Solo Sikoa? Miles, what's your opinion on that within the faction of the bloodline? Are they individual stars as much as what they are as Roman's second-hand guys as well?
Short answer is yes. Slightly longer answer is hell yes, because you look at the Usos, who are already bona fide stars, my favorite tag team of all time, and it feels like they've gone up a level. For me, they couldn't go up any more levels, but week in, week out, I'm looking to see what Jay's doing. I'm looking to see what Jimmy's doing, and not just as a pair, and not just a pair, identical human beings. I'm now interested in what this particular twin is doing and what that particular twin is doing. Then you move on to Solo, and Keanu obviously was there and said he had to look at the screens to see who on earth it was.
Well, I was the same. I was like, yo, what? They brought out Solo, and then my brother was like, but he's the champion on NXT as well. Like, how have they done this type of thing? It was insane.
Solo Sikoa is a breath of fresh air. For a man that barely speaks, for a man that scowls at everyone, he's an enforcer, he's a hard man. He's everything Roman Reigns needed. And Roman Reigns is such a dastardly heel that he thought, you know what? I've got the Usos, but that numbers game just ain't enough. I need someone who's going to kill someone on command. And his name is Solo Sikoa, and he is in my family, and he is out in the bloodline. Sorry, I'm getting gassed. I got my
listen. I don't. Hey, you're moving mad.
I'm gassed.
You know what it is?
Guys, don't get me wrong. Yeah, this Roman Reigns reign has been incredible. It has been the best television we've had in a long time.
Boo! Whatever you say.
There's something missing. There's something missing. Plus, I do agree that Jey Uso is a bona fide star, but in terms of Jimmy Uso, and actually no, I'll just say Jimmy Uso. I don't think it's helped him that much. I think it's only helped Jay, Sami Zayn, and Solo Sikoa. And
I think the good thing I think about that, I do kind of agree with you to that point, but I also think up until the point of where we had the story of the bloodline, I had a feeling that most people gravitated more to Jimmy anyway. I think there was more that we saw more of Jimmy. I don't obviously like there's Total Divas and all of them things there because obviously he's with Naomi, but like that's like a factor in it as well. Like people saw more of Jimmy. People didn't really see that much of Jay. So I agree with you there. I think the way that they've done this story of with Sammy, I think they've made it. It was quite interesting, obviously, because Jimmy was out injured, so you kind of have to work with Jay because that's all you had available. I think bringing him in as the person that it's like Sammy is the person that he gravitates towards first, but then you can kind of see like obviously there was a lot of angles into where the sense of like Jimmy is jealous of the relationship that he now has with Jay, but then Jimmy was just like the soldier, like regardless of whatever happens, whether it's stand here, like whether Roman told him to stand there, he stood there, do this, he did that. Like Jimmy was always literally was down from day one, like no matter what. So having him come across as the jealous brother, I think it gives a bit more levels to what he is. I think there's still more to see from Jimmy because I think him by himself is sensational. I would love to see him do stuff by himself more. But yeah, we just have to see.
It's interesting.
How do you think we're coming to the end of the bloodline, or is it just getting started?
I think that's the good thing about the bloodline, because obviously we'll talk about WrestleMania at some point, but like if Roman Reigns was to lose, if the bloodline ended at WrestleMania, it wouldn't be a bad thing. Like we could still look at the culmination of work over the last 2 years and say this is probably the best faction that has been in WWE for the last couple of years, as well as one of the best storylines that has ever been done. If you continue it, obviously there's a lot of new challenges out there, but I think the way that management is running WWE now, there's a lot of scope to continue, which is probably the perfect dilemma that they want. So I think it's ending at Mania, but we will have to see. I think either way, it could be great.
So this is what I'm going to move on to now, and that's the Roman Reigns title reign. Is Cody the right guy to end this? Because I've got my view, but I'm going to take you guys first. And stick on with you, Keanu. Then is Cody the right man to end this all?
Adrenaline in my soul. He is going to do it at Mania. I think Cody's the right guy because ultimately, as it is right now, he's the person that probably WWE see who is the guy that has momentum. I think not in the exact same way, but similar to how people like Kofi Mania, people saw the momentum of somebody coming in and generally being like, hey, this guy has generally been in the company for over a decade and he's never even come close to winning the big one. Cody, there's so much more to that. Obviously, we know who his dad is. We know the legacy that the man had in the company and just in wrestling in general. For him to then go away, come back, rise his stock to the absolute top level that it could be, come back, still hasn't lost a match at Mania, still hasn't lost a match in WWE since he's been back. You come back, you do a trilogy with Seth, probably some of the best matches that Cody's ever done in his entire life, and obviously we all saw the Hell in a Cell match. Like to do that, it's insane. And then he just does something with the people. Like he is able to just like no matter whether he was like in any form of iteration of Cody, like whether it was like when he was ravishing Cody, like the ravishing Cody Rhodes, whether he was Evolution 2.0, whether he was the guy with the mask, like he was always able to get a reaction out of the people. And I think we're seeing the best version of him right now. So I think if anybody is going to do it, it would be Cody. Because it's the perfect story. Like, your dad coached Roman. Like, the reason Roman is the way he is now is because of your dad. But then, the time when they had that first meeting in the ring, Roman said, "What did your dad say about you to me? Nothing. Are you mad? That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And you're telling me that that this man has to lose to you, and then come the Monday Night Raw after Mania, he's talking about like, listen, your dad didn't think he was nothing, and I proved him right. Nah, come on, man. He has to beat him. He has to.
Man, that's what you say. I see you laughing there.
Disagree with everything that brother below me has just said. For a few reasons. Let me collect my thoughts. First of all, the reason why they've had to go down the whole Roman Reigns knew his dad and growing up, and he told me that I'm going to be the best and whatnot, is because Cody Rhodes has not a lot of star power, in my opinion. He's not a big draw for me. I've never really been the biggest fan of him. In fairness to him, he's drawing a lot of heat. But is that just because he went to AEW and came back, and people are just looking for someone new to attach themselves to? You kind of had someone there who should have been the person to take the belt off Roman, who, in my mind, has the most star power, more than any member in the bloodline, by the way. Even with the bloodline being the best story, who was that? Sami Zayn. I thought when Sami Zayn fought Roman, I genuinely believed he was that close to winning. And if he wasn't going to win, which obviously he never was going to, why couldn't it have been Sami and Roman at Mania? That would have Sami winning, Cody Rhodes winning. Which one is going to be a bigger draw, a bigger pop? It's Sami all day long. This whole Cody Rhodes experiment, he's going to win the belt, he's going to stink out the gaff for a year, and then they're going to get him out of here.
No, I have to agree with Miles, Like, I've seen a lot of stuff on wrestling Twitter about Sami Zayn being the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns, and this is how I would do it, because I don't see Sami Zayn as a big star with the look he has right now. I prefer the old look he had in 2015 when he was so close to beating John Cena. That's when I thought he could be like the next big star in WWE. So if somehow they brought back his old theme tune, cut his hair, gave him back his like old attire, I think he could be the top guy again, like look presentable that Vince wants, and just be that guy, be the face of the company. Cody Rhodes, don't get me wrong, he's amazing. I think he's where he's at right now because of his in-ring work, and like whenever you watch him, you're always going to be entertained. Like what he did in AEW, some of the spots he did over there, your jaw's going to be dropping all the time. But yeah, I don't know. I'd have to give it to Sami Zayn to dethrone Roman Reigns, because the story that they've been doing for, is it about like maybe a year now? I think it just has to go that way. So
this is the way I look at it. I feel like you remember when Roman was pushed down people's throat and you knew he was always going to win. I feel like Cody is a little bit similar to that. But if I had to pick who's going to dethrone Roman Reigns, it has to be main event Jey Uso. And the way you can work this is Sami and Kevin beat them for the titles, so they don't have the belts. Solo somehow becomes a United States champion, so he's become a guy with a belt. Roman still has the belt. As the bloodline progresses, Jay and Jimmy start failing to beat the belts. They start failing. They can't seem to get the victories, and Roman gets Solo to take out Jimmy. At that point, Jay flips a switch. You get the promo, the ooze, that you turned my brother against me. You did this. We were together. We were riding since day one. And now I've got my brother against me. He's standing along with you. We revisit what happens 2 years ago when they were beating each other up. And Roman never actually pinned Jay, as far as I'm aware. He made him quit, but he used a weakness against him, which was Jimmy, in that Hell in the Cell match. And I think you set this up. You have main event Jey Uso. Go ahead, become the champion, the guy. And it's just something completely fresh. And it's not something that I've never seen. Again, you've got to build up Jay to be the main event guy, which could be a bit tricky because he's in a tag team for most of his time. But that run he had where he faced Roman was one of the best works I've seen from Jay as a singles guy, and probably will be for a very long time.
I think it'll be easy, The work Jay has been putting on in the mic, and that's the first thing people look at these days, is your mic work, is incredible, Like the stuff he's been doing with Sami Zayn recently, like his acting is just really, really good. So, and I think it's up there with Roman Reigns as well. Like if all they really need to do is just get him to beat Roman, and boom, there's a star born right there.
Can I just kind of take you back to lockdown time, when Jay was battling Roman over being a part of this whole bloodline thing. Look at the acting he did at that point. That for me was peak Jey Uso, where he was like, bro, I'm not joining you. Like, it shouldn't have to be like this. I shouldn't have to bow down to you. I mean, if it's not Sami Zayn, then yeah, I'm with you. Jey Uso, like I think he's been an underrated star in the whole thing. Jimmy has been all right, but Jay's the guy.
I think one thing that also sets it is the fact that when he did the promo where he beat on Sami Zayn, he never acknowledged Roman. He did it for his brother. He never did it for Roman. So you've got that little bit there as well, where you can talk about it and say, I did it for Jimmy. I never did it for you type of thing as well.
And actually, the funny thing about you mentioning that is, I think every action that Jay has done from the moment that the bloodline became a thing has always been for Jimmy. Like, I think, like, ultimately, he quit in that Hell in a Cell match for Jimmy. Yeah. Like, it's always been for Jimmy. So I think there's definitely a lot of scope there to turn. Like, a lot of it has always been he was part of the bloodline because he quit. Because he hurt his brother. So there's definitely there's so much. That's why I think even if Roman was to win at Mania, I think there's so much more avenues to like go down. Like it could even get to a point where we get the actual like Samoan elders involved.
That's what
and there becomes some level of like overthrowing, like, hey, guess what? You're not the head of the table anymore. And maybe they appoint a new head of the table. Like maybe like you get involved where like Heyman is now consulting with them. He's delivering messages to Roman from the elders. And then the elders potentially are like, hey, guess what? Maybe we want Solo to be the head of the table now. Solo is now the head of the table. He's the leader of the family. He is going to be the person. Go ahead.
Dwayne himself. Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
There's that too.
It's got to be Rikishi. Get Rikishi back to like Rikishi not as in to fight, but as in get him in the promos.
He said publicly that he wants to be involved in the storyline. So yeah,
that'll be. How could he not want to be? Yeah,
I mean, 100%. Like, and obviously he already acknowledged Roman, but then he also acknowledged Dwayne as well. So there's already stuff that you can do, and yeah, if the elder that comes is Dwayne, like I think obviously it would have been nice if it was this Mania because obviously it's LA, it makes sense. Yeah. But Mania is Mania at the end of the day. Like as of last year, like
as well.
That too, and Dwayne loves to show up at SummerSlam because SummerSlam means it's box office movie time, and I need some promo. So you know what I mean? He'll just run through and get something.
That's why there's more substance keeping the belt on Roman rather than, for me, giving it to Cody, because that's just pushing it down. And then you can probably have Roman. If Cody wins the belt, you basically have Roman Reigns off air for about a month, 2 months, because he's not going to be at that WrestleMania Backlash event. You're not going to see him in Puerto Rico. He's a box office attraction to a certain point now where he can skip a pay-per-view or two and then be back and put himself straight in. Like he won't, unfortunately, I don't think he'll be at Money in the Bank when he's at the UK because he's not necessarily needed for that, because the highlights are the Money in the Bank actual matches itself. But I do like it. And I'm interested to see where we go from here. But I do want to just quickly touch on one thing. There's the rumor that the first night of WrestleMania will be main evented by Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. Is this the bad move, considering we can also probably get Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens have their WrestleMania moment by beating the Usos as well?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like the announcement. I didn't like it.
What about you, Miles?
Yeah. I do like Charlotte as a wrestler, but her being the champion at all times, it's just getting a bit tired, you know what I mean? And obviously, with having them as the main event, it just makes it so obvious that Rhea Ripley's winning the belt. So, okay, so you've got the main event of WrestleMania, and we know exactly what the result's going to be. Great. Boring to me.
I mean,
I think agree with that.
I think in a way, like obviously, I think with the way the storyline is going with the bloodline, I would like to think, I would just like not just to play an advocate. I would say if the headline was Sami Zayn and KO versus the Usos, I would say in theory we do technically know the result to that as well, kind of. But I understand what you mean when it comes to like Charlotte and Rhea. Like ultimately, I think Rhea's taken that belt off.
There's no story there as well compared to the bloodline. Like with the bloodline one, you wouldn't really care about the result. You care about the story progressing.
I would say there could have been more. I would say it's because probably there's just not been as much build to it. Like I think ultimately when you win the Rumble, it's like I think like the last time we did this when Charlotte won, when it was the opposite. Charlotte won the Rumble, and then she was like, "Oh, there's nobody I've not beat." Da, 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 da. Rhea was still NXT champion. It's like she comes out, it's like you've never beaten me. I'm like, okay, this makes much more sense. I like this one a bit better as opposed to this time. It's just like this one, the angle is more of like, okay, Rhea's kind of seeking redemption from the last time from when she was in this position before, but because of how things have been going with her and like Judgment Day, in my opinion, she should have picked Bianca. In my opinion, because there was the build before Rhea got injured for her to face Bianca. So my thought was when she won the Rumble, I'm thinking, okay, so Bianca and Rhea at Mania, I'm down for that. Give me that. But then when she picked Charlotte, I'm like, I understand why, but I'm not feeling it.
So I'm going to ask you that quickly before we wrap up. You said Bianca faces Asuka, Rhea faces Charlotte. Are we lacking stars in the women's division currently? Because we had the full Revolution type of thing, and it got us new waves of women wrestlers, but it feels like they've just been a bit stagnant going forward. They tried to do the Liv Morgan thing. Raquel, to a certain point, are we lacking real stars in the women's division outside of the four that are probably main eventing their challenging for the belts?
100%. 100%. I think there's no long answer to this, to be fair. Like, there's probably only one big star, actually two big stars you can say in the women's division right now. Becky, we've seen and done that, so we can't say her anymore.
She's fallen off a cliff.
Yeah,
oh
she's
my
fallen off a
gosh.
cliff. Liv Morgan fallen off a cliff. Asuka fallen off a cliff. Like, she's great in the ring, don't get me wrong, but nobody cares. And yeah, I'd say Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair. That's it, really. That was the fight to make.
Well, I was going to say this. Do we then do this? Because I know you said Rhea Ripley, but I would say Bianca and Charlotte. Do we just unify the women's belts and have them face each other just because it adds a little bit more to it? Because I don't personally think, because like you said, the lack of stars, I don't think you need two belts. Like if you have one women's title across both brands, it just opens it up a bit, because otherwise you're forcing two matches that may not have the same caliber as one match for the title.
Nah, I disagree. I don't think so. I don't think you do that. I think ultimately, to go on to your point, Kalechi, there's not a lot of stars. There isn't loads of stars. Or the reason we're losing star power is because there's not a lot of stars. So ultimately, the only solution to it is trying to make more stars. Making it be one belt would not solve the issue, because now you have, as opposed to two belts or three belts if you count the tag belts, if you have three belts and you have 15 women on the roster, and you split it by 7, you split it by 15 or 16 women on the roster, and you split it by 8 or 7, you have them both go. You have 8 going for one, or 7 going for one, and then 7 going for another one. You make them one, you have now 14 people going for one belt. It's gonna clog up the division. Like, obviously, it will give. Hopefully, it would give more storylines if you give it to somebody new. Like, I think at least with giving it, like, obviously it wasn't the best of storylines. At least when you gave it to like Nikki Ash, you have the opportunity for more matchups. That's one thing I'm always looking forward. I always look forward to new matchups, to people that have not faced each other, or matches I've not seen 15 million times. That's the thing I look for, as opposed to just, okay, Charlotte the champion, who's she gonna face? She's gonna face Carmella again. She's gonna face Asuka again. She's gonna face Becky again. She's gonna face Rhea again. Like, I don't want to see that. Like, if I want to see it, I can go back to 2014 and see the exact same matches. I don't want to do it. Like, you have to build new stars. I think the thing that they need to work on more is just building new stars. I think that's what I'll do. So I understand why you give Liv the belt, because you want new people to face new people. Obviously, Liv's stock was rising, so it only makes sense. Like, as people's stock rises, you should reward them by giving them the chance at the top spot. If they prove themselves to be worthy of staying there, you keep them there. If it's not working, you've got 14 other people that you can start to build up. Like, we know you can hot people up and cool people down straight away. Like, the one thing I always remember when it was the money. I think it was the ladder match between Charlotte, Ronda, and Becky. and then the way they heated up Asuka just out of nowhere, she just comes out of nowhere, pushes the ladder, and then I mean, just like they can hot people up straight away. I think they just need to put more effort into heating people up.
What's your opinion, quickly, Miles, on the women's division currently?
Yeah, very quickly. Just basically what Keanu said. So, and a little bit of what Kelechi said. There aren't many stars, but I don't put the blame of there not being many stars on the women themselves. I put the blame on WWE, who, as well as they can book things, as we've seen with Roman Reigns, they are equally the worst bookers ever, especially when it comes to their women's division. And we've seen that over many years. I'd say one of the stars they built up was Becky on their own, and well, successfully. Charlotte was already a star. She can wrestle, whatnot. You could say Bianca, but there's something missing with her. So, they've got a track record of being able to book properly in the women's division. They just refuse to do it. And until they do, we're just going to sit here and wait till it happens.
But
one more thing as well, the tag team division for the women's is probably like non-existent as well.
Ooh, shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking division.
Yes,
it's forward tag team thing. I'm not for that as well, because it's just not working. But I get why you're bringing Lita and Trish back, because it's Mania season. But putting the belt on Lita just kind of makes me think, okay, she's going to drop it very soon, because she's not going to be full-time type of thing.
Yeah, it will only work if they stay.
Yeah.
If they decide they're staying to help boost this division, let them stay till the next WrestleMania, week in, week out. Then, you build, but don't put the belts on them if it's going to come off them by Mania or, whatever. So,
but yeah, we'll wrap up today's episode of Fantasy Booking. As always, if you do enjoy the content, like, share, subscribe, and comment all your views on everything that we've talked about as well. And especially let us know where you think the Bloodline story is going to go. Guys, appreciate you guys for always coming on now. We're going to make this a regular thing. All the guys' social handles are there, so give them a follow as well. And love and peace.